Focus. Very good, Logan. This is Logan. I think I was wrong in the first video. He is actually 5, and this is his roadmap to success. As you can see, we haven't had any dog aggression from him whatsoever. I would not consider him an aggressive dog. I think that he just is confused as to what his role is in the home. I think he thinks his job is to protect his humans, and when some men come around, he might have had a bad experience with the man, or just, yeah, can you lay down? That'll go a little bit easier. And so for whatever reason, he thinks his job is to protect his guardian. And his guardian is very reliant. She doesn't need that protection. But I think that he is stressed out because I think he's always on duty, or he thinks he is. So what did we go over? We went over adding rules and structure. We added rules such as not being allowed on the furniture, which he pretty much already has as a rule. He's doing this. This is a little bit of a dominance thing, but he's doing it very gently, so I didn't pull it away. But if you're petting him and he puts his paw on top of you, stop petting him. That's a control issue. Let me see. So other rules would be if we're eating at the dinner table, he's not allowed to be under the table. He should be 7 feet away from the table. We're going to use a third escalating consequence to move him away from the table. Can we sit, buddy? Sit. Everybody at home is going to be freaked out because you look so much like Callie, my dog. When we're cooking in the kitchen, we're going to set up a barrier and invisible lines, and he's not allowed to cross those invisible lines only when people are eating. Even though there's food and water in there, when we're cooking food, he's not allowed to cross that line. The rest of the time, he's fine. Can you lie down? Down. Come on. There you go, buddy. Yes. All right. Other rules, he has to sit before we let him in or out of a door that's closed. He should not go through the doorway first. He should be in the hall waiting for the human to go into the room or down the hallway or whatever it is first. Let me see, what else? We're going to use passive training and petting with a purpose to help him basically start engaging in desired actions and behaviors. So petting with a purpose is just, instead of petting him for no reason, we're going to ask him to sit. If he's already sitting, we're going to ask him to come sit over here or to lay down. And then as soon as he does that, we're going to pet him and say down, or whatever his command word is. Remember, he's going to do the action first, and then we're going to pet him afterwards, and then say the command word at the same time we start petting him. Now, if we're giving him a treat, I would put the treat in his mouth and then say the command word right after the treat goes into his mouth. And I appreciate you have a nice soft mouth. I'm going to hold on to this till we're done with this video. Let me see. Passive training is simply recognizing desired actions, behaviors. Every time he comes to you, pet him and say come. Every time he sits down next to you, pet him and say sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say chill, or whatever your word is for this. If there's anything else that he does on a regular basis, we can give it a command word. Like every time he goes here, we call this beach, or whatever the command word is. So we're going to wait for the dog to do the action first, and we're just going to simply recognize and reward it and say the command word. And you see, he's very playful. In this way, it's going to create a vocabulary. It's going to make it easier for us to say beach, and he knows what beach means. Let me see. The escalating consequences: hiss, number 1, stand up and turn to face him, number 2, pivot at your hips until he's stationary, then take 2 steps backwards as soon as he stands, sits, or lies down. Sit, sit. And then we're going to take those 2 steps backwards, pause 1 second, and then go back to doing what we're doing. The third consequence is to march directly at him until he turns sideways or greater. And then at that point we stop and we go to the second consequence, we pivot and we take those 2 steps backwards and then wait a second, and then we go back to doing what we're doing. The fourth consequence is the leash timeout. And if you forget how to do any of these, just call or text me. I can go over it with you and send you a video to remind you. Let me see. Now, we taught him how to focus. It's something I'd like the guardians to practice with him each once a day. Remember, when we're doing the focus, we're going to have about 12 treats. I was cutting the treats in half to make them last a little bit longer. So we're going to have 12 treats, and make sure you reload after each one. I have another video for this if you don't remember how to do the focus. But the idea is to gradually get him to the point where he can stay focused up at you for 20 seconds. Now, when we do this, we're going to practice inside in different parts of the house when it's nice and quiet. Then we're going to practice outside in the backyard until we can get up to 20 seconds. And so we'll go to 20 seconds in here, then we go outside, we go back to 1 second. Keep on practicing until we get back to the 20 seconds outside in the backyard. Then we're going to practice up to 20 seconds in the front yard. Then we're going to practice on walks, not on the main street that we're on here, but on side streets. And we're going to go back to 1 and then go back up to the 20 seconds. Now when we're walking, we're not going to stop and say focus. We're just going to say focus as we're walking. And as we're walking, we're going to keep on holding it down. So he's going to be able to focus while he walks. So the focus exercise he got really quickly. It's a great way to redirect him. And if we establish it properly by going slow in the fashion that I just went over, eventually if there is something he's reacted to or he's staring at, one of the signs that I went over in the other video, as soon as you see him doing that, you say focus, he looks up at you. Now, one thing I forgot to go over in the warning signs video above was licking the lips. Licking the lips is a big warning sign. That's a sign of stress and anxiety. Now, dogs also have something called calming signals. It can say, I'm stressed out, or you need to calm down. Holding up their paw like they're pointing is a calming signal. It could also mean please, or it could mean I'm pointing. Turning their head to the side and yawning is also a calming signal. I think I did it in the very first video. If you have a guest that comes over and he seems a little stiff, have your guest turn their head to the side and go, that's a way to help him calm down a little bit. You can also like scratch the ground and pretend like you're sniffing if your guest is willing to get down on the floor to do that. Let me see, what else? We called this beach and went over how to train the dog to go here. I'd like the guardians to use the same technique and get a floor mat and put it right there next to the hallway. That way you can see out the door. If he's out the door, we're going to practice putting him into this and come up with a different word for this command to go to the floor mat. And we're going to drop the treats first, and then we're going to leave a treat, make sure it's a nice light color so that he can see it very easily, no pattern on it. But we're going to train him to go to that mat on command without anything distracting him. Then when we do have somebody passing by the street and it's a distraction, something he disagrees with, we can call him over here, and he has the muscle memory of going up here. We're getting him practiced moving away from something that he's, rather than reacting to it. Now remember, when he's doing something we don't want, one of the best ways we can tell that is stop engaging with him. So if we're petting him and he starts barking at somebody, stop petting him. If he is, if he starts to jump up on you, stop petting him. He puts his paw on top of you, stop petting him. Stopping petting him with good timing is really a great way to communicate that you don't like that. Now remember, when we want to correct or reward him, we have a window of 3 seconds to either do it, correct or reward him, for him to be able to make the connection, but it will have to be repeated a lot. That's why having rules and consistently enforcing them, especially for the first month is so important. Also looking for ways to delay gratification. I watched the guardian demonstrate a couple of the tricks he has. One of them is she can put a treat on his paw and he has to wait until she gives him permission to get it. I would teach him how to do that on his nose, but that's a great exercise to practice when guests are here, because now he's refocused on that as opposed to something else. Now, to get him engaging with men, one of the things I went over was teaching him how to catch. Remember, when you do it, don't wind up twice and throw out the third one. Throw out the first catch, have somebody sitting next to him. If he doesn't pick it up, we pick it up and give it back to the thrower. The only way he gets it is snatching it out of the air. Try to throw it so good that all he has to do is open his mouth and it pops in at first. And then when it does go in his mouth, say the word catch or come up with a word that means catch. Now when you have guests come over, you can have guests sit down right at that bench right at your front door, give them about 10 treats, and have them play catch with him. Now he's like, I like it when people come over. They play catch with me. Now, the very first video I showed a way of how to introduce, and obviously it created a very positive association. We want guests to also create a positive association. So what I would recommend the guardian do, if you can, if the guests are coming over, have them call or text you when they're a minute away. Put a couple of treats on the deal. Now what I did is I spaced them out every 3 or 4 inches, but I had 1 treat, then 2 treats, then 3 treats, then 4 treats, and then a trail going to me. And then when he came to me, I was sitting on the curb with my side to him, and I gave him a treat out of my hand. Don't let him pull towards people. He should be on a leash when he does that. But after he's done it a couple times, you won't have to point out that there's a treat here. He's going to go and get them immediately. Then what I would do is I would have the person go out with you for a short walk. I would have you walk to the next corner, which is the short one, and you're holding the leash with the dog in between the two of you. Unless the dog is really reactive, then put the dog on the side. But it'd be preferable, if the dog is really reactive, put the dog on the side and the human here, walk to the corner, turn around, and now the dog should be between the two of us. Now, maybe when you get to the corner, ask the person to give him a treat, treat, Logan, and have them say, sit, Logan. Yes, I did drop a little piece. Logan, it's right here, buddy. Sit. Well, he's not cooperating right now because he's looking for the crumbs that I dropped. But tell him to sit, and then they give him a treat. Then you turn around and start walking back this way, and now the dog is between the two people. And the guardian very suddenly hands the leash to the other person. He holds the leash. And then when we get to the house, the guardian stays here. The person continues walking the dog all the way to the corner, turns around and comes back. And then when they come inside, they can play a little toss game. So now the person went for a walk with the dog, which helps dogs get over things by literally moving forward. That's why it's important to have the dog walking with the human. Also, the dog gets some treats. He stops and you can make him sit just the way we did on our walk, and then give him a treat. So if every time that he sits, it's a more subordinate position, sit. And then we build more of that positive association with the human. Now that we also went through a structured walk. Remember, keep the dog next to you on always the right side, always the left side. Keep the dog's shoulder aligned with your hip. When you correct, you pull the leash up really quickly, but put it down even quicker. So it's like this fast is how fast you want to do it. And remember, do that anytime his chest exceeds your torso. You want to pull up, not back. If you let him get too far in front, when you try to pull up, you're actually pulling back. No, don't let him stop. Keep your arm nice and relaxed. Don't pull back on it. If he lags behind you, let your arm go dead and just keep on walking. Don't pull him. Let the leash get tense and pull him. Make sure you keep the leash short. Get a 4-foot straight leash at Petco or PetSafe or wherever. And add the special twist of the leash that I showed you with the martingale collar to give you more control. And then the other rules for a structured walk, no stopping and sniffing. He can sniff as long as he's moving, but if he stops to sniff and you stop, he's not listening to you because dogs nose control 60% of their brain, and he's telling you what to do. So instead, if you want to sniff, sniff it as we're walking by. But if you keep on sniffing, I'm going to let my arm go dead and keep walking. Don't stop for him. And then the last thing is not letting him mark on the walk. We're going to let him go urinate at the beginning of the walk, not on the walk. Don't avoid things. Walk right next to it. But if you know he's going to pee on that corner, as I approach it, I'm going to turn my vision right here and watch him. And if I have to, I'll jog a couple paces by it, or I'll give him a quick correction. The idea is just not to stop. Yeah, he's going to continue to try to break these rules and to pull it and go ahead of you on a leash and all these things because he enjoys doing those things. But the more that you consistently rise to the occasion and meet the challenge, every time he does that, he's testing you, and every time you win, he's going to build up a little bit more respect for you as an authority figure. Let me see other things. Feeding him. We went through a feeding ritual. He did great at it. I think the guardian was putting too much food in his dish, and she was also free feeding him, and so he's eating at times before the guardian. So just remember, it's important that whoever's feeding him eats 5 bites of something first while there's food in his bowl on the floor waiting, and then we give him permission to eat, and we have a special word that no one else has ever used before. I like that. That is his command word. We're going to say that command word after he takes his first bite for the first 2 months. That's going to be passive training, teaching him that when he hears that word, that means he has permission to eat. Eventually, you could be sitting over here in the living room and just yell the word out, and he'll go and eat his food. You don't even have to be over there. It's pretty awesome when he gets to that point. Set him up for success. We're going to have a guest come over. Take him for a long walk. Take him to dog daycare if you're going to have people come over that night. Remember, if you have a situation that he doesn't behave well in, take note of all the details of the situation, try to recreate it later, but remove some of the elements so that he can practice the behavior that you want in an easy scenario, 1 step at a time, walk him through it 1 step at a time, rewarding him richly every time he behaves the way you want. Then we bring more elements back and eventually have a real world scenario, and he's practicing in easy settings so he knows how you want him to behave. Let me see, what else? Is there anything else I forgot to go over? I probably am forgetting some things. If I did, please call me or text me. I don't charge for my clients for that, and I want you to call me. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. I use this motion to get him to come. Now I lower it, that makes it more appealing. When I want him to sit, I raise over his head. Then I lower it, let him lick it off my hand, and pet him under his chin, and I would say just the command word. Remember, don't say, a couple other things. Say paycheck if you see somebody petting without a purpose. We're going to come up with a list of the vocabulary items. I think we have a lot of versions of the different command words, and I think that's making it harder for him to understand. So consolidate it. And if we hear somebody, thank you, buddy, that's saying, come here, we say, vocabulary, and the person says, come. We're going to make it easier for him to succeed by using as fewer words possible so that he can identify just those words. We're also going to say rerun if somebody is repeating a word over and over again. And vocabulary, like I said, if they're using the wrong word. Come up with fun command words. We can say bed, but he already has a little bit of, there's a little bit of tension because of his occasional nipping of people. The more levity we can bring in the situation, the better. So come up with funny command words and also give him a naughty dog name. So he's doing something wrong, you can call him Rufus or Obadiah or some other ridiculous name so that when he hears that, he knows that he's in trouble. Every time he hears his name, it's nothing but peaches and cream. So that's why, like I said, every time he comes to you, pet him and say here or come, whatever your word is for come, for passive training. Pet him and reward him for doing the things you want. After a while, he'll start doing those things to prepay asking for attention. All right, this has been going on a long time. The Guardian is kind of looking at my phone in a funky way, so I'm guessing I'm getting some weird messages that are coming up, reminders, but that's all right. Don't hesitate to call me if you have questions. One more time, buddy. Come here. Sit. This is Logan's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.